Welcome to my new vision of teaching. Before I get into my vision, I would like to look at my prior assumptions of teaching. So here I went back to my personal statements from the first day at the Faculty of Ed. When asked what is teaching, I originally put that teaching is the act of guiding another individual to come to a conclusion on their own or instill in them something they did not previously know. The one thing that stands out to me is that I put on their own. I realize now the importance of collaboration and group work in teaching and learning, and I would definitely add that into my statement now. When looking at what is learning, I said that learning is the act of gaining something you did not already know before, and when learning, you are able to recall and apply what has been gained. Now I would add to this and add the component of reflection, because reflecting in your learning is so important, especially as educators to reflect on how our students are learning, but even as learners ourselves. If we can reflect on how we have learned in the past and what has worked for us and what hasn't, we can be self-advocates for our own learning skills to help get us the best education we need. I then looked at why I wanted to be a teacher, and my vision pretty well aligns with this. I want to be able to incorporate my many gifts as an individual, such as being caring, athletic, and personable. But I really want to be that teacher that my students remember and motivate them to continue. When I look at my vision now, I feel like I better explain how I will do that. My vision as a future educator now is to always put the needs of my learners first. They will guide everything I do in my practice, anywhere from assessment to instruction. I will ensure that my classroom is designed to provide a universal design for learning that removes barriers through representation of solutions, that all students feel entitled to learn and be a part of an inclusive environment, and that I continue to teach based on the readiness, interests, and learning styles of my students. If my students take anything from a year in my class, I hope it is a sense of self and the confidence to be self-advocates for their lives. I want them to enter society a caring and responsible community member who, through inquiry and exploration, believe they can solve any of the world's problems. When I think about my vision and the limitations it has, I am aware that being responsible for not only the educational skills, but the well-being of 25 to 30 children can be hard and can lead to burnout. So I am mindful that I will need to establish barriers where I can separate my job in teaching from my personal life as to avoid this and protect my mental health. My vision has been built up from my foundations courses. When I look back to Foundations 1, I found that it really helped me develop my lesson plan and writing skills. We are forced to break down our lessons, which really helped us grasp the key concepts. In week 3, we discussed the idea of backwards design. Here's the document we looked at, and I love how it outlines it so clearly for us. So first, we want to identify our desired response. So what is the big idea we want our students to learn from this lesson? We then look at the assessment and how we will assess that they have learned this. And then we can finally get into the big activity. I remember when I first entered this program, the big activity was always in the forefront of my mind. And I've now learned that the actual learning expectations and the big ideas are so crucial and should be the forefront. Foundations 2 really helped provide me with the skills to carry out in the classroom to ensure that the needs of my students are at the forefront and that these relationships will create a community in our classroom and assist in classroom management. So we talked about the principles of universal design for learning and differentiated instruction and how this can help. We also got the chance to have our Indigenous conference this term, which really opened my mind to the importance of the Truth and Reconciliation Act as an educator. During week 4, I created this infographic that reminds me that as an educator, I can do my part by sharing real stories about Indigenous culture, bringing in guest speakers from the community, and also incorporating Indigenous art and conversation into the classroom. I love that I have this infographic to go back to be able to help motivate myself to teach about the truth of our Canadian history. Then I go to Foundations 4. Lastly, Foundations 4 was a really good way to put it all together. We were able to apply the theories and ideas that we've learned throughout this course to both long-term planning and unit planning. I love the discussion about parental engagement, primarily in week 8, especially the article from the OTF and the modules on parental engagement. In my past, I've had to deal with a lot of conflict, and this site has given me so many amazing tips and strategies for de-escalation and reestablishing that relationship, especially when conflict reoccurs, which I thought was truly important. When I look back on my entire year as a teacher candidate, I think it's amazing how much I've adapted and molded to the times. If I look down, my tech qualifications have been built up because of this virtual world. I can't wait to be able to indulge in all the amazing strategies and tools I've learned and adapt these into the virtual world for my future teaching and practicums. The 3 goals I've set for myself as a future educator is to 1, follow the lead of my students and get their feedback. I think that student feedback is the most important thing because really it's all about them and their learning. If something we're doing isn't working, we need to be cognizant of that and then make the changes to fix it. I'd also I want to adhere to the Truth and Reconciliation Act by integrating Indigenous knowledge to the curriculum wherever I can. I know how important it is that we abide by the Truth and Reconciliation Act, and I really want to make that known to my students. Lastly, I want to make time for mindfulness. I know it's so important, and especially in the prevention of burnout as an educator, and I just want to be in the best mental health state for my students as I can be.